Welcome back to Maroon Sports Talk. First time since May that we have been back. We are happy to be back. Sorry it's a little bit late in September, but we just wanted everyone to get acclimated back to school and stuff like that. This is your one-stop shop for all things EKU sports. My name is Nick Speer.
I'm Caleb Wells.
And I'm Jenna Evans.
Welcome, Jenna. This is your first episode. Are you excited to be here? Are you excited?
Of course, I'm so excited to be here.
All right. We'll kick things off first with football. Caleb, do you want to kind of talk about that loss against Mississippi State? Looking at the stats and stuff like that. What do you think went good? What do you think went bad? And then are you think we're ready for WKU?
I think there was, like you said, some good, some bad. I think execution looked a little better than I thought it was going to. They are executing the plays that, Coach Wells has drawn up. I don't know if this is on the coaching end or rather the quarterback in the pocket, but they're not settling into the offense really. They're executing, but they're not really getting the right results. They're completing the pass, but we're getting 2 yards on it. That's the kind of stuff that we kind of want to see. And I get, Mississippi State's a good SEC school. They're just a lot more talented, better trained than EKU. But I don't know. You kind of want to see more aggressiveness too. You saw Morrissey, the quarterback, just take the easy way out a lot of times, the dump-off pass to the running back, to the screen wide receiver. He didn't really settle in, wait in the pocket at all and try to hit a man down the middle or anything like that. So I think that's the stuff you want to see improvement on.
Yeah, and I think right before halftime too, where we got our lone scoring drive, they kind of let the chains off, or the training wheels, you can say. It seemed like off of Matt, being the first game of the season and stuff like that. They seemed kind of timid in the first quarter. They would hand the ball off, and like I said, he would kind of go off his first read or look straight at his first read and nowhere else. So hopefully they can bounce back against WKU. But that scoring drive, they were passing it extra 10, 20 yards down the field.
Right.
And they scored. And so... and you kind of noticed that throughout the game because they started letting them go. They would get down to the 30-yard line and then get a 3-and-out or something like that.
Right.
So what do you think about kind of the beef going on? I know when the episode airs, and maybe Saturday or Sunday, we'll have to look at that. What do you think kind of about the uniform beef?
Right. So for those that don't know, this Saturday is going to be the EKU versus WKU game, and WKU was planning their whiteout. And EKU, as the away team, exercised their right to wear white uniforms. So because of that, WKU can no longer wear their white uniforms and have to wear their red uniforms. It's just like full-fledged beef right now because WKU put out an official statement on their Instagram throwing shade at the Colonels for not yielding to let WKU wear white. So, honestly, I think it's kind of silly on both ends.
Yeah.
I think EKU really could have just been like,
I guess we'll maroon.
We'll wear maroon. But I get it. They're trying to show that they're there to play and that they're not gonna just roll over. So I get the mindset. But I think an official statement was, I don't know, a little wild.
Yeah. And then I noticed too when we were posting the Eastern Progress article that Barstool Sports, Bleacher Report, CBS were all talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is this a thing right now? And they're also I'm pretty sure paying us $325,000 to go down there. And so
really?
I really don't think. I think we should try to actually win and not roll over, and then we can be like, I see we wore white and we still beat you guys, and you guys got all mad about it. So what are you kind of expecting out of quarterback play? Do you think we'll try to throw the ball more down the field this time around?
I would really hope so. I think that's going to be, the only way we can win, to be honest. I think Matt's very talented. I think we have some really talented wideouts. So I think the goal is just going to be to not play timid against WKU. I think, they're obviously a good team, but I think they're not going to be as quick and electric on the defensive end. So I think we've got to take advantage of that, give Matt time to throw the ball and let him complete those passes for 10, 20 yards, let him build a rhythm. And once we have that, I think we can string together completions and then mix the run in there, and I think that's how we're going to beat them.
And I think it's back-to-back travel, too. You're going to Starkville, coming back here for a couple of days, and then going all the way down. Kentucky's not a small state. You're traveling, 3.5 hours. Jenna, so basically you said, talk about what kind of sport that you play and then kind of what's it like traveling back to back, and then how do you think preparation goes into all that stuff like that? Kind of give us that inside look.
Okay, so I'm on the dance team. I'm a sophomore, so this is my second year, and actually WKU will be my first away game traveling. We're not always allowed to take the whole entire team, because of capacity and buses and all the things. So this will be my first experience traveling. From experience in the past, like high school, atmosphere is a big thing when it comes to traveling, like not getting timid because we are traveling to a new area. You have to scope out your surroundings and figure out what works best for you. I know for me that whenever I get into a stadium and I look up and there's people all the way at the very top, I mean, they're so tiny you have no clue what they look like. So I can know that for football teams, they definitely have to set that aside and not get timid over their atmosphere because it is different than their home games, especially going to Mississippi State or WKU. They're bigger areas, they're bigger stadiums than we're used to here. I started dancing when I was 3 years old, so 16 years, almost 17 years of dancing. I was a competitive dancer through the all-star circuit, so I was competing every single weekend. I didn't start doing game days until I actually came to college. So last year was my very first game day experience. So it was totally different than anything I was ever used to because my school didn't have a dance team. So I was strictly competitive. And now coming to WKU or EKU and getting to go to WKU for a different game experience than we have here, I'm really excited for that. And I really hope we have a good turnout.
Yeah, and I couldn't imagine like being on the field or on the sidelines and looking up and not being able to point out someone's like face.
Oh yeah.
How do you kind of like tone that out? I mean, you mentioned like toning that out, but how do you go about that? Is it like a mental process that you go through before a game or anything like that?
The big thing is I really focus on projecting up and making sure that even though people are really high up, that they can see me and they can see what I'm doing, see that I'm happy to be there, and see that I'm ready to cheer on the Colonels. I normally pick one spot in the stadium to focus on, and that's what I look at the whole entire game. So normally it's up in the very top sections that I will look at, because if I look at someone right in front of me, I'm probably going to laugh. I'm probably just not, and then the people in the back are not going to get the projection that they deserve, because as the dance team, we are there to cheer on our Colonels, provide that game day experience, and get the crowd all wild up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I couldn't. And speaking of like getting the crowd riled up, I'm expecting a lot better performance out of our defensive side of the ball this time. I kind of talked about last week in the article, or for this week, is rather than that. We have defensive players that are super talented, and it seemed like we couldn't really hold our own on that side of the ball.
Right.
What are you kind of expecting out of the defensive side of the ball this time around? I know the first 3 plays of the game blew coverage and then they scored. So
right. I'm hoping to see them buckle down a little bit more. I think we're all expecting a lot out of Vito Tisdale, former Kentucky and Colorado player that's now with EKU, and then Mike Smith Jr., the App State transfer. I think knowing that they've played against some of the better like Division I schools and have played really good wideouts, I think we're just looking to see them play the same way against WKU. Just really just ratchet up the intensity and get handsy. I think that's a good way to like just show the physicality. Just getting in there, getting physical with their wide receivers and setting the tone and just trying to avoid those PI penalties.
Yeah, I'm really expecting this side of the ball this time around against WKU. Their quarterback had less than 100 passing yards against Alabama. Now I know it's Alabama, but with our talent on that side of the ball, even in the linebacker play, I think we blitz more, and then a lot of press coverage. It was a lot of lax coverage. We were kind of 5 yards separated from the receivers. We should play more press coverage this time around.
I agree. I think we need to let Mike Smith and Vito Tisdale get physical, because when you play them off, like you're scared to get beat deep. And I'm like, you just got to trust your safeties and let Tisdale and Smith Jr. just deny the ball even getting there.
Absolutely. And I think with Vito being the defensive back and then Mike Smith being that safety, being that strong and free safety, I think the communication can be a lot better this time around, especially with their talent level.
Yeah.
Their quarterback, TJ Finley, I spoke to the sports editor at WKU, and their head coach for the Alabama game said there's really no separation between QB1 and QB2 for WKU, so I really think if we can take advantage of that, because TJ Finley did play at LSU and at Auburn, and so he's played in those hostile environments, but he looked very off against Alabama. 2 interceptions. The first one was in the first 3 plays of the game. Yeah. So I think if we can make him uncomfortable and then kind of get that sideline kind of riled up, it'd be a lot better.
I think another good note is that WKU's, and obviously, it's Alabama, and they have, potential Heisman winner and Jalen Milroe at quarterback. But I think another thing to look at is he was well over 100 yards. I don't remember the exact stats. He might have even got over 200 yards, but he only completed 7 passes, and he was torching them. I mean, we were looking at 50 to 80-yard completions every time he was throwing the ball. And I think that's another thing to look at is, like, obviously, Alabama's much more talented than EKU, but I think that's just a good note for Wells to take into consideration is you can beat WKU down deep. You can beat them over the top of their coverage.
Yeah.
So I think another good idea is just to maybe mix in some play action passes. Let Matt air it out a few times, especially if you get ahead of the chains on first down and you're looking at a 2nd and 2, a 2nd and 1. Just taking that opportunity just to air it down deep. To our talented and speedy wideouts.
Absolutely, and I think too, he mentioned in our interview, Mick Mahone at WKU, the sports editor, that Alabama had an 84, an 85, and a 55-yard touchdown pass.
Right.
All from Milroe, and he completed only like 7-8 passes.
Yeah.
So just all go, playing college football 25, all go and just lay it out there.
Milroe was really playing Madden out there.
Yeah, and they ranked 110th in FBS in total yards allowed last year, so we really got to take advantage of that. So
yeah, I agree.
Moving from the football side of things to the court and volleyball, obviously historic season last year,
right?
For Lady Colonels for volleyball. Kind of talk about, you put it up article in the Eastern Progress last week talking about some of our players. Kind of talk about that. Right.
So like you said, historic season for volleyball last year. And that's something they're looking to continue. I had the chance to interview Josie Schmittendorf and also Sarah Mitchell, and they're both fifth-year seniors with EKU. And so I got to talk to a lot of, with them about like why they chose to come back. And Sarah actually gave me a really good quote, but she said, "A big fat ring," and like that's the mindset they have going into the season. Like they think that it's ring or bust. Like they absolutely like think they can compete for that, and they can. They have almost the exact same starting lineup. The only difference is Chloe Mason, the setter from last year, graduated, so now it's Emily Hill, but she's also an amazing setter. And they started off the season really tough. With opponents, they played against Boston College and Texas Tech, so they suffered both of those losses, but they beat Iona 3-0. And then today, the recording of this episode is before the game. This will probably air after, but they have 2 games today here at home against Morehead State and against Radford, and I think they can easily win both of those.
Yeah.
They're a very talented roster. Like I said, high expectations. Both Sarah and Josie were named preseason All-ASUN, which is huge, and I think they're both going to continue that.
Jenna, kind of from the athlete side of things, what's it like in doing off-season preparation? How do you kind of build off expectations that you set yourself for the previous season, and how do you kind of prepare in the off-season?
Definitely the first time that our new team comes together, we all sit in a circle and write out our goals for the year. And as we achieve those, we'll add new goals in their place. So this summer, we started our season in July, and we had 2 weeks worth of practice every day, 9 to 1, and then 3 to 7. So hitting it hard right from the beginning, and building that team bonding, building those friendships together so that we can work together as a team, because we're 17 girls that come from totally different schools. So didn't even know each other before we came to EKU, and now we're on a team together. So you have to build that team mentality before you even start the season. We go to camp, which is where we earn our nationals bid. So we went in July to U of L and competed for our after 2 weeks of preparation, competed for our nationals bid, and we were given one, so we will be going back to nationals this year. So definitely just goal setting. Our first goal was get a bid to nationals, and show out from the beginning, show the teams that we compete against at nationals that even though we've only been together for 2 weeks, we've already got that team mentality down.
Mm-hmm. And for people, for listeners that might not know, what's kind of like a dance season look like here at EKU? And then what are your practices? Like, what do you guys do for practice and stuff like that for listeners that may not know?
So we start our season in July. We actually go through a tryout audition style is how you actually make the team. So we have a weekend of those, and then once the team is announced, we start our practices in July. The first semester of school is mostly game days. We're preparing for football and basketball game days because we do dance at every football game that's home, and some away, just depending on the circumstances, and then all men's and women's basketball. So whenever football and basketball start overlapping, that's a very busy time for us because some days we'll go to a football game at 2 o'clock and then have a basketball game that night at 7. So definitely a very busy area right in that time. We also start our nationals preparation. So practices after we go through all of our game day stuff, we get our timeout routines set and our pregame set. We start working on skills for nationals. We have choreography normally in October and November to get those routines down. And then once we get those, we practice all winter break, preparing those, and all of the second semester is devoted to basketball games and nationals prep. So we go to nationals at Daytona Beach in April. So once April is over, we get about a month until we restart again. Nationals is normally the second week of April, and tryouts is the first week of May, and then we start back in July. So not much of an off season.
No, I asked about off season, and there's no off season.
There's not much of an off season, but none of us ever complain because it's been our whole life for a very long time.
As a sophomore this year, how is it like getting the freshmen integrated quickly? Because you said you only have 2 weeks before you're competing for a nationals bid, and that's a big deal. You want that nationals bid.
Yeah.
So
our freshman class this year came in, and they're very, very strong. They all come with a very strong background of competitive dance and school dance, so they already had that game day aspect already solid. They came in with studio experience, so they've been competing their whole life, and that was something that I was worried about because I feel like if I came in with no competitive background and just had ever danced for a school, that I wouldn't have that competitive mentality with dance. But we came in this year and they were very strong, and I was super proud of every single one of them. They fit in just like they had been there. They were returners. They looked like they had been there for a few years, and it was great. We had a very good preseason before camp.
That's awesome.
Wow.
High respect for student athletes.
I know.
Oh, man. So moving back to the volleyball court and that kind of side of things, brand new with Alumni Coliseum being under renovation and stuff like that. Did they mention that at all, playing in Olympic Sports Training Center?
They did. So I got to talk to both Sarah and Josie again about that, and I asked them how they feel about that, and they were obviously in one sense, on paper, they were yeah, it probably looks like a disadvantage. Having to not play in where they normally play, Alumni Coliseum, where volleyball and basketball normally plays, but it's currently under construction for renovations. They talked about how now being an OSTC, the Olympic Sports Training Center, that though it's a smaller venue, they definitely didn't think of it as a disadvantage. They were saying if they can just get people to show up normal, if we can bring the same attendance that we had at Alumni Coliseum over to OSTC, it could be even better, because they were saying it's a smaller venue, it's packed, it's tight, it's more intimate is how they described it. And they were saying if they can bring that level of intensity from Alumni Coliseum to OSTC, the other team would be shell-shocked with that many people just in that tight-knit environment, getting rowdy, getting loud.
Yeah.
They were saying that would be even more powerful.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of when Penn State upset top 15 Illinois in basketball, and Penn State's not known for their basketball. It was in their old rec center, and then the fans were right on their court with them.
Right.
And in Illinois, the whole game was just rattled because they couldn't hear their coach because there's fans 2 feet away from you. So, and it was a much smaller venue, and it was Penn State's most historic win in 20 years. So I think if they can pack out that place and stuff like that, it'll be good. Jenna, so with Alumni Coliseum being torn down, has that kind of affected athletics at all, being in one space with everybody else? So.
Yes. So OSTC is where we've always practiced, and now with Alumni Coliseum being under renovation, everyone in athletics is in the same building, and it's kind of crazy because last year it was normally only track and field, cross country, and dance team. Mm-hmm. Occasionally women's basketball would be in there, occasionally men's basketball, but now we are practicing, like we have practice this evening, but right before we get on the court, men's basketball practices. So we're staying there as men's basketball practice. So as soon as our 6 o'clock hits, we're on the court so that we don't lose a single minute of practice. It's a very back-to-back packed schedule right now. And then we have to put in our volleyball games. So our practice place is changing all the time. Sometimes we're in OSDC, sometimes we're in Begley, sometimes we're in the rec. It just depends on, it's like a day-to-day thing. Where's the practice going to be at today?
Hey, I mean, meeting new people, I guess, other athletes, becoming friends with each other, So moving to the soccer pitch, they've rebounded really, really well these past few games. They just played last night at NKU and beat them 3-1. So awesome. Kind of really took over on that side of things. With that kind of recovery and stuff like that, Caleb, what are you kind of expecting this rest of the season for soccer? Now they've kind of rebounded really well, seemed to get their footing, a lot of pressure on the opposing side of the ball, So kind of talk a little bit about that.
I haven't followed the beginning season of soccer super closely, but I think just for the rest of the season, what you want to see is just the continuation of like their growth together. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you want to see, is them just like learning how to play together even more, and just letting the coach grow that environment. And I think that's what's going to help the most going into like conference play and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think conference play is super important. We kind of talked a lot about that last year with basketball getting off to a rough start, and then they wiped the floor the rest of the season. Yep. I could see kind of the switch in person last week. When they tied 2-2, I'm pretty sure it was Eastern Illinois, and the freshman scored that goal within the 88th minute, and made it 2-2, and then the foot's been on the gas ever since. It seemed like they just needed that spark. They take a lot more shots that I've noticed reading about them than the opposing side of the ball, so they get a lot of offensive pressure. Nice. So I'm hoping they can keep that up for the rest of the season. So just a little bit about soccer update. Go see them at their stadium right next to Baptist Health down there for any listeners out there. Moving on from the pitch to the video game room, we have an empty seat at our table. Joey Aguire, one of our other co-hosts, could not be here. He talks about esports and other stuff like that in the rec center. He's not here today. He will be back next week. Kind of sent us a little bit of a list here to kind of talk about. Esports this semester is having 2 new games. They're doing Call of Duty and Fortnite. It's really want us to talk about. Nice. I haven't played Call of Duty since middle school. Wish Joey was here to talk about that. Yeah. Fortnite was a little intriguing too. So if you want to join the esports team, go into the rec center and then ask to sign up. And he'll talk about next week. He was talking a little bit more about it in April and May, the Esports World Cup. So go out there and check. They do live streams and stuff like that. They have a new digital broadcast director in esports. So I'm terrible at Call of Duty and Fortnite, so I will not be participating. Jenna, you mentioned before the recording you play Fortnite. You're going to go out there?
Oh, yeah. I love Fortnite. Hey, actually, over the summer, Caleb and I played Fortnite together a lot.
We did.
Until he was on mission. But we got a squad. We could take him down.
You got to go up there and join the esports Fortnite team. So we look forward to having Joey next week. As we're kind of wrapping up this new semester, we're going to try and do the question of the day, something related to sports. At the end of the podcast, the question of the day today is. We know Jenna is on the dance team. Me and Caleb, we are not student athletes. If you could be great at one sport, what would it be? Any idea about what sport you would love to participate in the D1?
Right. I think like the obvious answer, like, the little kid in me wants to say like football. I would love to be like good at football, but like realistically, that would never happen. Like I'd get hit once and just fold. Yeah. So I think realistically, with my build and skill set, I would say like I feel like I could like be decent at volleyball.
Volleyball, really? Yeah. Get a men's team going on.
Yeah.
Over here.
I don't know. I play intramurals. We usually do okay. So I would say volleyball.
I tried playing intramural volleyball and we actually won but the people at the rec did not referee the game correctly. That's not a diss anyone. Obviously, that intramural refs. But we ended the game, and I scored like 5 times, and my friend played volleyball in high school, and she was like, dude, you broke the rules like 20 different times. Like, what are you doing? And so a lot of handballs apparently, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of technique.
Yeah, if I could play any Division I sport, it would definitely be basketball.
Okay.
But I'm slow and I'm like only 6 foot. So I played in high school, but it was nothing great, no offers. So, but it would definitely have to be basketball. So, Jenna, besides dance, any sport you would think you would want to participate in?
I would say golf. My brother actually played golf at Boarhead State, and my dad tried to get me into it, and he took me one time to the course, came home and looked at my mom and said, that's not going to happen. So definitely golf. I would want to prove my dad wrong that I can play golf.
You can play golf.
Yes.
Jenna actually you have a cousin in the NBA, right?
I do. I do have a cousin in the NBA. Yes, Luke Kennard.
What? No way. That's pretty cool. Wow, you didn't mention that. That's awesome. All right, we'll talk more about that next
Maybe
week.
we'll get you as a guest.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Hey, fine by me.
Caleb's face is lit up.
Hey.
Zoom him in next time.
Right.
All right, so that is everything that we have next week. Like we said at the top of the hour, this is your one-stop shop for all things EKU sports, and then Joey Aguirre. Sadly at NPC, he'll be joining us next week to talk more about the Esports World Cup and esports as a whole. So thank you so much for listening. We will see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Bye.